Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready to jump into something pretty fascinating today?
I am.
All right, excellent. Well, we are going to be taking a deep dive into the world of youth and gangs.
Okay.
And I think you might be surprised by some of what we uncover here.
Yeah.
We've got 7 YouTube video transcripts to go through, and we've got some really interesting perspectives here.
Interesting.
Okay, got ex-gang members, law enforcement, even community workers.
Yeah.
We even have a TEDx talk about using soccer as a preventative tool.
Wow.
So a lot to cover here. It's a global issue,
Yeah.
but with some very local impacts.
For sure. Yeah.
So let's buckle up and get into it.
Sounds good. One of the first things that really jumps out at me here is the global reach of this whole issue.
Right.
We're going to be looking at the UK's county lines model and then comparing that to gang activity in North America.
Right.
And county lines is a system where urban gangs are using children to transport and sell drugs in more rural areas. But I think you'll find some pretty interesting similarities despite the geographical differences.
Yeah, and it's kind of alarming how these gangs are expanding out from cities into these smaller towns and villages. And I think the BBC 3 documentary, they use this term cuckooing,
Yes.
which refers to how these gangs are actually taking over homes in these rural areas.
Uh-huh.
It's unsettling, and it seems like it's becoming more common.
Yeah.
But can you kind of expand a little bit on what we are seeing on that global scale?
Yeah, so while those like specific methods they use, they can vary a lot.
Okay.
What we are seeing across the board, really consistently, is this pattern of vulnerability and exploitation.
Okay.
And these gangs, they're often preying on people who are struggling, people who are feeling unseen, unheard, and they offer them the sense of belonging, the sense of purpose
Right.
that's very often missing in their lives.
Right.
And it's a very dangerous and damaging cycle no matter where it's happening.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to make assumptions when you hear that word gangs.
Right.
Like you just picture hardened criminals. But the videos from the Justice Education Society of BC,
Yes.
A Current Affair, really highlight that a lot of these young people are just desperate for acceptance,
Right.
especially those who lack family support or feel isolated.
Exactly.
That pull towards belonging is intense.
It's huge, yeah. And it's such an important point to remember because I think it challenges that simple view
Right.
of these kids just being bad or making bad choices.
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to try to understand the psychology at play here. Like gang membership, it can actually fulfill this really deep psychological need for connection, for identity.
Uh-huh.
It can give them that sense of family purpose, even a distorted sense of achievement that's just missing elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not always about poverty or a rough upbringing either.
Right. Yeah.
The TEDx talks by Craig Pinckney and Jose Segura,
Okay.
they really broaden my understanding of the types of kids who end up in gangs. Pinckney's idea of invisibility, I thought, was really insightful.
Yes.
This idea that sometimes youth violence, it comes from, young people being unseen and unheard.
Yeah.
And acting out as this, desperate attempt to be recognized.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it raises a crucial question, really, for all of us. And that is, are we as communities and as individuals doing enough to actually see and support these young people before they turn to gangs?
Yeah.
Are we missing the signs? Are we failing to provide viable alternatives to that gang life?
Right. It's pretty sobering
It is.
when you think about it like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that are unsettling,
Yeah.
the tactics that are used by these gang recruiters to manipulate and exploit young people,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's straight out of a nightmare. Like the Justice Education Society of BC and the BBC 3 videos, they go into detail about how these recruiters use intimidation, coercion, even social media to lure young people in.
It's frightening. Yeah. And it's really chilling, actually, how sophisticated these tactics have become, especially with the use of social media. The BBC 3 documentary, it highlights how gangs are actually exploiting the algorithms of platforms like Instagram.
Wow.
They're crafting content that's specifically designed to go viral, to reach young people far beyond their immediate networks.
Right.
They're glamorizing the lifestyle, showcasing showcasing a world of wealth and status.
Right.
And that really appeals to those who feel marginalized, who feel overlooked. It's disturbingly effective strategy.
It's like this twisted marketing campaign where they're selling this like dangerous, destructive lifestyle instead of a product.
Yeah, exactly.
What stands out to you as especially problematic about how they're using social media?
I think it's that manipulation of the desire for acceptance and attention that's so common among young people. It's not even just about showing this lavish lifestyle.
Right.
It's about creating content that makes gang involvement seem normal and appealing, and they're preying on the insecurities and the vulnerabilities of those who are really struggling to find their place.
And once a young person gets pulled into that world, getting out is so difficult.
So hard.
I mean, the Justice Education Society of BC video, it really highlights those challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, the fear of retaliation, the lack of support systems, the psychological pull of the group.
The pull is strong, yeah. It's a complex web of factors that keeps these young people trapped in that cycle of violence and exploitation. And, you know, we need to understand those complexities if we're going to effectively address this problem. And you know, one of the most powerful things we can do is listen to the stories of those who have managed to escape that lifestyle and rebuild their lives.
Yes, and thankfully we do get, glimpses of hope.
We do.
Through some of these stories and these videos.
Yeah.
And we see, community-based initiatives that offer mentorship, support, alternative paths for at-risk youth.
Yeah.
And there's Jose Segura's inspiring TEDx talk where he discusses his efforts to use soccer to bring together young people from different backgrounds, some even from rival gangs, to build connections, create a sense of unity.
That's powerful, yeah. I think what's so impactful about Segura's approach is that it goes beyond simply providing that alternative activity. It's about fostering positive relationships, breaking down those barriers, challenging those prejudices. It's about helping young people see each other as individuals. Not just labels or members of opposing groups.
It's about building bridges, creating a space where everyone feels valued, respected.
Absolutely.
But we also need to address those deeper root causes of gang involvement.
We do.
Poverty, lack of opportunity, family dysfunction.
These are all significant contributing factors.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't ignore those social and economic conditions that create that fertile ground for gang recruitment. It's a complex web of interconnected issues. And it requires this multifaceted approach that goes beyond just cracking down on criminal activity. It's about investing in communities, providing resources, and creating opportunities for young people to actually thrive.
So how do we even begin to unpack all of this? It's clear that this issue of youth and gangs, it's far more intricate than it appears on the surface.
It really is, yeah.
And I think the first step is to really understand the scope of the problem. We need to acknowledge the realities of gang life, the factors that contribute to that youth involvement, and then the devastating consequences for individuals and communities. And from there, we can start to really explore solutions that address both the symptoms and the root causes.
Okay, well, that sounds like a perfect place to pick up next time.
Sounds great. You know, and I think one of the most crucial aspects of this whole thing that we need to understand is the exploitation. Like, that's just woven into the fabric of gang life. And it's particularly evident in the UK's county lines model, where gangs are like deliberately targeting vulnerable young people to act as drug runners. They're sent from urban centers into rural areas to expand the drug markets. And they're basically turning these children into like expendable pawns in their criminal enterprise.
It's heartbreaking to hear about kids, some as young as 12 or 13, being lured into this dangerous world with these promises of, money, status, belonging. The BBC Three video really sheds light on how these kids are manipulated, controlled, told they're part of a family while they're being exploited for profit.
And it's a calculated strategy, too, on the part of the gangs.
Right.
I mean, they're exploiting the fact that law enforcement is more likely to view these young runners as victims if they're caught,
right,
which minimizes the risk to the adults who are orchestrating the whole operation. Wow. It's a chilling example of how these gangs are preying on the very people that they claim to protect.
And the exploitation's not limited to drug running either.
No.
In the current affair video, we hear from Alex, a former gang member, who talks about being coerced into stealing luxury cars as a teenager.
Right.
And even years later, you can see the guilt and the trauma he carries from those experiences.
Yeah, Alex's story is a really powerful reminder that these young people, they are often both victims and perpetrators.
Yeah.
They're caught in that cycle of exploitation and violence and their involvement in criminal activity. It can stem from this complex mix of like desperation, coercion, and even a distorted sense of loyalty to the gang. Yeah. It's a really challenging dynamic to untangle, and it requires this nuanced approach that acknowledges both the harm that they've caused and the harm that they've endured.
You know, one thing that's really stood out to me throughout all these videos is the pervasive influence of social media.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's not just about communication anymore.
Right.
It's become this powerful tool for manipulation and recruitment.
Absolutely. In the BBC Three video, it shows how gangs are using platforms like Snapchat and Instagram to normalize and glamorize that gang lifestyle. Right. They present this carefully curated image of wealth, of status, of power, and it's designed to appeal to those young people who are feeling lost, overlooked, disconnected. I mean, it's essentially a form of online grooming, preying on those vulnerabilities to draw them into this really dangerous world.
Yeah, and it's disturbing how effectively they can use social media to manipulate algorithms and reach a wider audience. Yeah. It's like they're hijacking these platforms.
They are.
To create this virtual pipeline for recruitment.
It is, yeah.
Extending their influence far beyond the streets.
What's really concerning is how this online exposure it desensitizes these young people to the realities of gang life. Right. The violence, the exploitation, the constant threat of danger. Yeah. It all gets like packaged and presented as part of this glamorous, exciting lifestyle. Right. And it's incredibly dangerous, especially for, young minds that are still developing, that haven't fully developed those critical thinking skills to see through that facade.
In the Justice Education Society of BC video, they make this really powerful comparison between gang recruiters and like predators. Yeah. They both prey on vulnerability, using manipulation and coercion to gain control and exploit those who are most susceptible to their tactics.
That is a really apt comparison. Yeah. I mean, both predators and gang recruiters, they utilize very similar grooming techniques. Right. Building trust, exploiting weaknesses, gradually isolating the victim from their support systems. And as we're seeing now with the rise of this online recruitment, social media has become a powerful tool in their arsenal, giving them this unprecedented access to vulnerable young people.
So amidst all of this darkness and despair, are there any signs of hope?
I think so.
Is it even possible to break free from this cycle of violence and exploitation?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the challenges are immense. We do see these glimmers of hope. Throughout all of these videos, there are individuals who have managed to escape the clutches of gangs and rebuild their lives, proving that change is possible, even from seemingly impossible circumstances.
And the Justice Education Society of BC and current affair videos, they highlight some of these inspiring stories.
They do, yeah.
We see former gang members who found support through educational programs, community initiatives, even the unwavering belief of law enforcement officers who saw their potential and refused to give up on them.
Those stories are so crucial because they showcase the transformative power of second chances and the importance of having those strong support systems in place. Right. It's not about condoning their past actions. Right. It's about recognizing the inherent worth of every individual and providing them with the resources and opportunities they need to create that better future for themselves.
And Jose Segura's TEDx talk, that also offers a really powerful example of how how positive engagement can make a difference.
Right.
He talks about starting this soccer program.
Okay.
That brought together students from all walks of life.
Okay.
Magnet students, ESOL students, even kids who were involved in gangs.
Wow.
And it created a space for them to connect, to build relationships, to see each other as individuals, not just labels or members of opposing groups.
That's such a brilliant approach because it tackles this issue on multiple levels.
Right.
You know, it provides that healthy, engaging activity.
Right.
It fosters that sense of community, that sense of belonging, and it challenges prejudices by bringing together young people from all these diverse backgrounds who might otherwise never interact. I mean, it's a powerful demonstration of how sport can be used as this tool for social change and reconciliation.
It really highlights the importance of creating spaces where young people feel safe, supported, and empowered to make those positive choices.
Exactly. And it's not just about providing alternatives to that gang involvement.
Right.
I mean, we need to address those root causes.
Right.
You know, the systemic issues that create those conditions for gang recruitment to flourish.
Right.
We need to invest in communities, create opportunities for education, employment, and support families who are struggling. It's a multifaceted challenge that requires this comprehensive, collaborative approach.
Craig Pinckney's TEDx talk.
Yes.
That really resonated with me.
Okay.
He talks about how young people are often invisible in our society, unseen, unheard, and ultimately unsupported. And this sense of invisibility can drive them towards gangs where they find the recognition and the validation that they crave, even if it comes at a terrible cost.
It's a profound observation, and it underscores the importance of creating a society where all young people, they feel seen, they feel valued and empowered. We need to listen to their voices, understand their struggles, and provide them with the resources and opportunities that they need to thrive.
He uses this powerful metaphor of a village.
Okay.
You know, saying that it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
But if we don't recognize the village, that village can also kill a child.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder of the responsibility that we all have to create that safe and supportive environment for young people.
Yeah, that metaphor really stuck with me too. You know, we can't just passively stand by and expect someone else to address this issue, right? It's a collective responsibility, and we all have a role to play in creating a safer and more supportive environment for young people. Absolutely. And I think it starts with recognizing that these young people, they're not just statistics or problems to be solved. They're individuals with complex stories and dreams and aspirations, and their involvement in gangs. It's often a symptom of these deeper issues, and we need to address those root causes if we really want to create lasting change.
The Justice Education Society of BC Video, it really delves into the challenges faced by those trying to leave gang life.
It's hard.
And it's not as simple as just walking away. There's the fear of retaliation, the lack of support systems, and then that powerful psychological pull of the group. It's a daunting process.
It is.
And it requires a tremendous amount of courage and resilience.
Yeah, and what struck me in that video was the emphasis on the importance of providing these young people with a sense of hope and purpose as they navigate this really difficult transition. And it's not just about offering practical support like job training or safe housing. It's about helping them to envision a different future for themselves. One where they can use their experiences to make a positive contribution to society.
Like we need to help them rewrite their narratives. You know, showing them that their past doesn't have to define their future.
Exactly.
And we see this in action in some of these videos.
We do,
Where former gang members, you know, they find support through mentorship programs, educational opportunities, even just the unwavering belief of individuals who saw their potential and refused to give up on them.
Those individual stories of transformation are so powerful because they demonstrate that change is possible, even from like the darkest of circumstances. But But we can't rely solely on those individual acts of kindness or heroism.
Yeah.
We need systemic change too.
Right.
We need to invest in programs that address the root causes of gang involvement, providing young people with the tools and the resources that they need to make those positive choices.
One of the experts in the Justice Education Society of BC video, he talked about the need to shift our focus from punishment to rehabilitation, from judgment to empathy.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing the inherent worth of every young person, regardless of their past mistakes.
I think that's such a crucial point. I mean, we need to move away from this us versus them mentality and create a more inclusive society where young people, especially those who've been marginalized, who are involved in criminal activity, they feel supported and empowered to turn their lives around.
Craig Pinckney, in his TEDx talk, he issued this direct call to action.
They did?
Urging us to get involved, to find out what's happening in our own communities and connect with those working on the front lines.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't just sit on the sidelines and hope that someone else will fix this problem.
His words really resonated with me too.
Yeah.
It's about, taking ownership, recognizing that we all have that responsibility to contribute to creating a safer, more equitable society for all young people. And it doesn't have to be these grand gestures or these sweeping policy changes. It can start with small, everyday actions, like mentoring a young person, volunteering at a community center, or simply speaking out against injustice.
Even just having conversations like this one.
Absolutely.
Where we're engaging with these issues, challenging our assumptions, and seeking to understand the complexities of youth gang involvement. This is a step in the right direction.
It is,
It's about raising awareness, fostering empathy, creating a more informed and engaged citizenry.
We often hear that phrase, think globally, act locally, and I think that's particularly relevant here. The issue of youth and gangs, it is a global one, but the solutions, they start at that local level within our own community. It's about building relationships, fostering connections, and creating opportunities for those young people to thrive.
It's about recognizing that every young person, regardless of their background or past experiences, has potential.
Yes.
And it's our collective responsibility to nurture that potential and guide them towards a brighter future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
If gangs are exploiting this void in young people's lives, what are you doing to fill that void with those positive alternatives? What actions can we take, both individually and collectively, to create a world where young people, they feel seen, supported, and empowered to make choices that lead to a fulfilling and meaningful life?
It's a powerful question.
It is.
One that I hope will stay with all of you long after this conversation.
I hope so too.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, even small actions can make a big difference.
They can.
So keep exploring, keep learning,
and
keep fighting for a better world.
Absolutely.